from the victims. This appears unbelievably senseless.
He then pours a drink onto Larry Walke through the drive-through window, reading about the Tasmanian Devil for 2025. You win the prize for the most outrageous set of facts.
Sir,
Yes?
I was going to ask if I had a restraining order because I don't know how I can apologize to them. I would like to.
You can write a letter to the prosecutor's office or to your lawyer, and he can share it with the prosecutor and the victim advocate to share it with the Walkies. I'm not sure they're very charitable toward you. Now, you weren't actually working. You were a McDonald's employee. Mr. Gabriel was sort of diplomatic about it, but there could be a possible cause of action against McDonald's. And the matter was set for sentencing here this morning. I'm glad the prosecutor's here. Frankly, I don't know what to do with this. I didn't order a pre-sentence. Maybe Mr. Nossinger can enlighten me, but something obviously was going on here above and beyond what is readily apparent. Mr. Gabriel, we'll start with you.
Your Honor, you're correct. As I reviewed the police report, and more importantly, some of the information I've gotten from the victims, this appears unbelievably senseless. There clearly was something happening in this young man's head. I did note that in one of the victim statements, I think it was someone that worked with him, he said some pretty positive things about him and was hoping he'd get a second chance. However, as I reviewed the information I received from the Walkies, I don't know if he even understands that when he knocked the 72-year-old lady down, apparently pushed her once and knocked her down once, he ended up breaking her ribs. He ended up breaking the humerus off of her shoulder. This lady has undergone extensive medical procedures. She's going to physical therapy. It looks like somewhere in the area of $4,000 thus far is restitution that they're entitled to. There's some indication an insurance company might pay some of it, but they have no idea what or when. She has to undergo 10 weeks of physical therapy, and I think she's done 4 so far, and that's $30 out of their pocket. I was able to get the medical records. Fortunately, the husband in this matter, even though he was pushed to the ground and kicked several times and stomped in the chest, he didn't lose consciousness and he wasn't in any pain. Although obviously afterwards you can imagine he was in pain, but it doesn't appear that there were any fractures. So this young man really dodged a bullet. In that I think a lot of this medical information was not known at the time the charges were issued. I reviewed the police report, and it's kind of cursory that Milwaukee's one man was assaulted severely, didn't suffer any ongoing injuries, and it just indicates that Gloria was pushed and then knocked down. I don't think the office knew at that time the extent of her injuries, and clearly at a minimum it would have been an aggravated assault. The malicious destruction of the building, they're looking for $2,500 in restitution to restore the graphic and some damage to the drywall, but obviously the damage to the Walke family is much more severe than that. I also note that Mr. Nossinger did file a Homes Youthful Trainee petition request. I verified or indicated that our office didn't take any kind of position at the time. And in light of what happened here, Your Honor, and the fact that he's going to have misdemeanors on his record, I certainly would oppose any further grant that allows him to escape responsibility for this behavior, no matter how long the court might put him on probation. I don't know how these people are ever going to recover their finances. I even indicated to the victim witness unit that they might need to talk to a civil attorney and look at where other parties might be liable. They were just customers going through the drive-through window. And it doesn't even appear that the defendant was working on that day, but for some reason he decided to go there and be a total fool. But a total fool that hurt people. And I think there has to be some responsibility imposed by the court for that behavior. Thank you.
I saw you at the time of the arraignment and the time of the plea, and you seem fine. There's a line in the police report. I attempted to interview Steele at the jail. However, he was too heavily under the influence of an unknown drug to fully understand. So I don't know what you did before you went back to McDonald's. Maybe you guys can enlighten me. What happened, Mr. Knopfinger?
Yeah, Judge, a couple of things. I'll kind of start from the top because there is a lot going on here. I will go back to talk a little bit about what happened that day. This was Mr. Steele's 18th birthday. I think there was even a question whether or not, because that was his birthday, whether or not this was a juvenile matter or it was an adult criminal matter. And it's very clearly, and I think this is the only one I've ever had, was the Ida statute says on or after the defendant's 18th birthday. And this was, in fact, on his 18th birthday. It was a Saturday. And since that happened, he was arrested that night. He spent 17 days in jail until this court gave him a bond after he'd entered his plea at the preliminary exam conference. And having spoken to his mom, she went in and she had contact with him while he was in jail. He was acting a little bizarrely. There were times where he was in the restraint chair. And some of the things that he had said to his mother over the jail phone were very suspicious to her. They were odd. They were didn't seem to align with how he had acted before. It was the first time he'd ever been in jail. She then went in and sort of raided his room there and found bottles of Robitussin, some other drugs. And having spoken to him too, there's a lack of memory too in terms of what exactly happened that day. So I do think he was under the influence, explains some of that behavior. Doesn't justify it, but it explains some of it. At some point too, I think even some of his coworkers were kind of startled by the conduct. They were interviewed and tried to calm him down, and he didn't seem reachable. Went over the restitution figure. We're stipulating to the $2,500 for that to be for the entryway to be repaired, whatever needs to be done. Did just receive the figures this morning. We're stipulating we're not going to object to any of the restitution. Honestly, I get a little reluctant doing that, knowing that there could be more in the future as well. He is a young man. When I went to visit him for the first time at the jail, Judge, he was, well, kind of taken aback, embarrassed, and I think most importantly, remorseful for what happened. He had no idea that these two elderly people had suffered broken ribs. I think, and that was kind of telling for me. And quite frankly, he was a little, even a week later after the incident, he didn't really, having met with him since, I realized that that wasn't really him when I went and visited him. So when I started to suspect the drug involvement. Had several conversations with his mom. I think this is a wake-up call for him. It's the first time he's ever been in jail. So for that, we would be asking the court to consider the Holmes Youthful Act.
Mr. Steele, is there anything you want to say to me?
I have a restraining order on the two.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember what you took? What set you off on your 18th birthday like this?
I do say that.
What did you take?
It was a bottle of Robitussin.
Just one?
I believe I took 4 prior to that day, and it kind of just stayed in my system.
5 bottles of Robitussin. Anything else?
And then I tried to overdose on Benadryl as well, which did.
How much Benadryl did you take? Liquid or Benadryl pills?
Pills, I don't know. The most I've ever done though was like 20, 30 pills.
So you've done this before?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you watch the video of what happened?
No, sir.
Well, it ain't good. The video shows a clear picture of what happened, which perfectly aligns with the victim's statements. Steele was seen walking into the McDonald's. He walks into the kitchen and speaks with several workers. He then pours a drink onto Larry Walke through the drive-through window. Steele confronts employee Draper and shoves something in her shirt and shoves her. He then grabs a large bag of food and attempts to flee out the east exit. Steele is met by Larry Walke at the door because he's like, hey, this kid just poured a drink all over me in my car. And Steele attacks Walke. Steele throws Walke's face first into the wall, causing a face-sized hole in the wall. Walke slumps to the ground and is able to get up, either from injury or age. He's about my age. Steele speaks to Gloria Walke and then runs around the building. He re-enters the building and jumps over the counter, re-entering the kitchen. He shoves Roman, one of the McDonald's employees, and grabs some more food, and again tries to flee out the east exit. He shoves Gloria Walke. Larry Walke grabs Steele, and Steele slams his foot on Larry Walke's chest. He then shoves Gloria Walke out the door and onto the concrete outside. He then shoves Rosado, hugs her, enters the building a third time, knocks stuff down in the kitchen, grabs more food, then climbs through the drive-through window and flees. It's like reading about the Tasmanian Devil from a Warner Brothers cartoon. I'm not giving you Holmes youthful trainee status. This all happened quickly from the prosecutor status. I guess we can review it because I'm going to put you on probation because you got a lot of money to pay. But they didn't realize at the time they made this charge and then the plea offer, the extent of the injuries to the Walkies.
Sir,
Yes?
I was going to ask if I had a restraining order because I don't know how I can apologize to them. I would like to.
You can write a letter to the prosecutor's office or to your lawyer, and he can share it with the prosecutor and the victim advocate to share it with the Walkies. I'm not sure they're very charitable toward you. Now, you weren't actually working. You were a McDonald's employee. Mr. Gabriel was sort of diplomatic about it, but there could be a possible cause of action against McDonald's. The law used to be that you were an adult for criminal purposes at midnight on your 17th birthday. They changed the law a couple of years ago, and now you're not an adult in Michigan until midnight on your 18th birthday. This was the evening of your 18th birthday. Not a very good way to celebrate it. If one of these people had died, heaven forbid, you'd be looking at some sort of manslaughter charge. And I do believe you that you don't have a clear memory of this, but it doesn't make it any less serious. I'm going to do 24 months probation. No drugs and no alcohol. Test as directed. $960 probation oversight fee. You may be on probation for the whole 2 years. No HIDA at this time. I suppose if you do an outstanding job on probation, prosecutor may reconsider.
Will court reserve restitution to the walkies?
I'm gonna do it on the other judgment.
Okay.
I did one assault and battery and then a second assault and battery. One for Mrs. Walke and one for Mr. Walke. I think, was this a no contest plea, Luke?
I don't remember, Judge.
Look at my notes. No contest. And I do believe you didn't have a clear memory of this. In the first assault and battery, I'm ordered 17 days, credit 17 days. Give you 0 to serve. Right now, they're not taking weekend cases at the jail, and I let you out after 17 days. You got 93 days hung over your head. If you don't comply with the terms of this probation, you might as well just figure you're gonna do the balance of 93 days.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, might I suggest, in light of what the court said, having gone to the University of Michigan 40-some years ago and finding myself in a similar situation, and the condition of his probation be that the probation officer show him and let him see the video at McDonald's?
Yeah, I've done that before. I had a drinking driving case where I had the view video. No contact with the Walkies or McDonald's, Emily, or any McDonald's. They're probably going to get sued because of your conduct. And I reserved on the restitution as to the Walkies till we determine how much it is. Right now, you're not in much of a position to pay any restitution. Have you ever had it? Well, you had this McDonald's. Was this your first job?
No, sir.
Have you had a job since then?
Yeah, I detest with.
I mean, but not since then. What I want you to do is I want you to be in school. I want you to not dink around and get the credits you're supposed to get. If you're not going to go to school, I got a place for you to go. The St. Joe County Jail. I don't know what was causing you to drink these cough medicine and take Benadryls. Did you mix the cough medicine with anything or just drinking it straight out of the bottle?
There was a couple of days where I just did pills. There was a couple of days where I just drank the cough syrup, the medicine, and then there was a day where I just did both of them. But I do believe that the chemical compounds were still in my system.
That's probably true.
I think it made me really delusional, and it just,
Take this form downstairs to the probation department. No drugs, no alcohol, no assaultive behavior. Test as directed. Sometimes it's hard to test for these cough medicine things or other medications other than alcohol and our more common drugs, but we may have to do some careful testing. You're not old enough to drink, you're not old enough to smoke marijuana, and you certainly can't be doing prescription medications or even over-the-counter medications.
Judge, I think he's under a very closely watched eye at home now.
I hope so. I was tempted to just give you 93 days in jail. But I don't think this is characteristic of your conduct. And you're only 18 years and 12 hours old at the time this happened. But there were bad consequences. You're going to see in living color what you did to these people and your coworkers. There were other people assaulted who weren't included in this, including the lady who shoved some food down her blouse, pushed one or more other workers or shoved them down. So there's probably at least 5 assault victims here, 2 with serious ramifications. You take that form downstairs to the probation department and they'll get started on what you need to do.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, and I'll just, for the record, on page Curlin, she did comply with all the terms of the deferral agreement, and I will show that it's deferred.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's 1704 SM.
I know I don't really seem 10 of the times, but I was listening to you.
All right, very good. I hope so.